Georgia resident Jack Lamar Roberson apparently overdosed on his diabetes medication, something that his fiance felt was an apparent suicide attempt. Now, she called the authorities immediately. She called the paramedics, and while they were arriving on the scene, she let them know that he was being extremely difficult and combative. So the paramedics decided to call police, and police arrived to the scene before the paramedics did. After they confronted the man, the authorities allege that he was being dangerous, that he was being very, very combative, and they felt that they were threatened. They also believed that he was coming at them with a weapon, which of course he did not have, so they fatally shot him in front of his fiance, his mother, and his child.
8-year-old daughter. So, look, you have to judge every case on its own merits, and if this ever goes to trial, and it's a big if these days, then of course you have to see, like, why did the cop think that he might have a weapon? Was that real? Did they make that up afterwards to justify the shooting? Look, you got to be fair to everybody, including the cops here, obviously, and see what the whole situation was. That being said, we cover stories like this every single day, and when you look at the macro picture, what do we have? In all these instances, you got an 85-year-old guy who's a little combative, and he picks up a curtain rod or something. They shoot him with this shotgun, not with a bullet, but with a rubber pellet, I think it was.
It was like a beanbag.
Beanbag pellet. Because he's 85 or 89. He was unbelievably, old, honestly, right? Internal bleeding, dies, right? A Down syndrome kid, they asphyxiate him. That was just yesterday, right? Oh, he was being unruly because he wanted to watch a movie twice. Now here, you call the paramedics for help. You called an ambulance. You said, please come help me. And instead of helping you, they come and they shoot you and they kill you.
I remember about 2 years ago, the reoccurring story when it came to police brutality was the overuse of non-lethal weapons like tasers. And it's incredible to me that when these stories are popping up now, I mean, they completely bypass the tasers altogether. Now they're just shooting people if they're a little combative. And again, we don't know all the details of this story. At this point, it's a he said, she said situation where the family is saying one thing and the cops are saying something else. But I always find it interesting that when these stories come up, the cops always point to, well, we thought that person had a weapon. Oopsie, that person actually didn't have a weapon. That's questionable. Why do you have non-lethal weapons? Aren't you trained to use that if you feel like there is someone there who's a threat? And then if that doesn't work, you might have to escalate and go to other measures. And I just want to know for the record, Cenk, very quickly, he did overdose allegedly on diabetes medication. And I did some research on the medication and what it could do to you if you do overdose. And it can create intense anxiety and confusion. So he was not in the right state of mind at that moment. So it isn't, unbelievable that he would be acting difficult. But again, there are other methods of restraining him. Immediately resorting to shooting someone to death is not the right way to go about it.
So I remember in the Boston bomber case, they had tracked down this friend of Tamerlan Tsarnaev. You remember the story? And then they had like 7, 8 officers in the room, FBI guys, and then they said they shot him and they killed him, right, in his own living room after they'd been interrogating him for hours. And then they said, oh, he had a weapon. Then they said, oh, he had a knife. Then they said, oh, he didn't have a knife, but he had some sort of weapon. Then they said, oh, okay, he didn't have a weapon. Yeah, but he overturned the table. So, so when you look at it, how many times have we heard the story? And the problem is, in my opinion, the overall state of mind that we put all the cops in. It's like you're not cops anymore, it's like the military. We're in a state of constant war with our own citizenry. So if anybody gives you trouble, shoot first, ask questions later. Now, think about the ramifications of this. So, is this guy, like, if you're in that community, now are you afraid to call for help? Because, if you've got a situation, and a lot of medical situations, somebody is having involuntary actions, like physical, right? It might be that they're, having a stroke, they're shaking, I don't know. Adverse reaction to many different kinds of medications, right? Are you now afraid to call the police? Because when the police come, the first thing they're going to do is shoot, right? So, it's outside the bounds of reason. And look, this case, again, could be adjudicated in a totally different direction, and maybe the cops had a reasonable belief that he had a weapon, right? Every case is different. But when you look at the totality, it paints an ugly, ugly picture where the police are no longer protecting us. It feels like they're at a war against us.
Yeah, so when you look at the prevalence of cases like this, it kind of makes you wonder, is this because of the fact that some of them might be power hungry? Could it be the obsession with shooting a gun? Could it be because of the militarization of our police force? I mean, we have police departments right now that are not only using drones, but literally have military tanks. We just did a story on that last week where the police department in Dallas has a $600,000 military tank, right? So it's the police state. I mean, this is just a symptom of that.
And one last thing. Now, look, this guy happens to be black, but it is, I really don't think it's about race. I think it's about class, right? And so I can guarantee you that if in Beverly Hills somebody called, or on the Upper East Side or Upper West Side of Manhattan, et cetera, name any nice town or area in the country, right? Somebody calls and says, we need paramedics here, we need an ambulance, there's adverse reaction to diabetes medication. It is impossible that the cops would come in and shoot a guy dead in his house in Beverly Hills. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's never going to happen because they'd be so afraid that they would get in trouble, they would get fired, there would be ramifications. So the rich immediately will they call in cops to help subdue the guy so they could bring him to the hospital? Yeah, of course they can do that. But they're not going to come in shooting, right? But here, you're in a poor neighborhood. Well, I mean, just in case, shoot first, ask questions later.
And it goes beyond, the worry of consequences. I think it also has to do with the stereotypes of people that live in those neighborhoods, right? So if you're living in a poor neighborhood, I think that the stereotype and the assumption is that you're probably a deadbeat, you're probably dangerous. Oh, look at this person living in a low-class part of society. And then with Beverly Hills, they're wealthy, they're hardworking, they're usually not troublemakers. So you're not going to go in there with some preconceived notion. Yeah, because if you're having adverse reaction to diabetes medication, troublemaker.